devotee's name too. You can read out from KR Puram, bro, who took initiation shelter, bro. Both the names I sent.
So it's in WhatsApp, bro?
Yes, WhatsApp, bro. WhatsApp.
Okay. Hare Krishna. So requesting all the devotees to kindly pray for the devotees who have taken initiation yesterday. so that they can very strongly proceed in their practice of Krishna consciousness in serving Guru and Krishna. So, Rasmai Prabhu, please read out the names. I'm unable to read out from the WhatsApp.
Okay.
So you can do it. Huh? You can do it.
Yes, I'll read. Yes. Hare Krishna. We have two devotees took shelter from KR Puram. So one is Balakrishna Prabhu and Kavita Mataji. They both are they took shelter of our Guru Maharaj. And we have four initiation devotees, initiate devotees. So one is Saraswati Mataji, Mother of Veldari Prabhu. Saraswati Mataji's initiated name is Saraswati Krishna Seveni Devidasi. So this is initiated name. And next is Anudip Prabhu. So Prabhu staying in a base. And Prabhu's initiated name is Anupama Mukunda Das. Then, third is Mahalakshmi. So her initiated name is Mangala Mahalakshmi Devidasi. And next is Lakshmi Devi Mataji. So wife of our Manisheshra Prabhu. Mataji name is Leela Parayani Lakshmi Devidasi. So these are devotees associated to initiation and shelter from our Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna Srivastava.
Hare Krishna. So Kalyan Prabhu can give me host access, make me a co-host so that I can start the screen sharing. Mathurapati Prabhu has announced the names of devotees from his circle who have taken initiation.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, already done, Prabhu. You have access to share, Prabhu.
Yeah. So now I can do, Prabhu. I can do the screen sharing.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I think you log in with, yeah. Yes,
fine. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. We can see, Prabhu.
Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmulitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Madhyam Shri Gurum Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parizvasetam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. So today, I'm requesting all the devotees to kindly go on mute so that a lot of noises on the background. I would request Kalyan Prabhu to mute if some disturbance comes in between. So kindly
Sure.
mute the devotee so that it's not an hindrance for the speaker to speak. So today we are reading from the 23rd chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse number 1. Shri Gopa Uchu Rama Rama Mahabaho Krishna Dusta Nibarhana Yesa Vai Baddate Kshunnas Tachantim Kartum Arhataha. Shri Gopa Uchu Rama Rama Mahabaho Krishna Dusta Nibarhana Yesa Vai Baddate Kshunnas Tachantim Kartum Arhataha. Shri Gopa Vuchu Rama Rama Mahabaho Krishna Dusta Nibarhana Yesavai Baddate Kshunnas Tachantim Kartum Arhataha. So word to word translation, Shri Gopavachu, the cowherd boy said, Rama Rama, O Lord Rama, Mahabaho, O mighty armed one, Krishna, O Lord Krishna, Dusta of the wicked, Nibrahana, O destroyer, Yesha, this, why, indeed, Baddate is causing distress, Shud, hunger, Na, to us, Tat Shantim, its counteraction, Kartum Arhataha, you ought to do. Translation. The cowherd boy said, O Rama, Rama, mighty armed one, O Krishna, chastiser of the wicked, we are being harassed by hunger and you should do something about it. Purport. The cowherd boys jokingly implied that since Sri Krishna is the subduer of all bad things, the Lord should subdue their hunger by arranging for them to eat. In this statement by the cowherd boys, we observe the intimate loving friendship they enjoyed with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulanjayati Viramedripatamaham Vande Shri Guruve. So the translation and purport is given by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So now we'll go to the PPT presentation. So devotees are able to see the screen.
Prabhu, we are seeing a blank, Prabhu.
One
We were
minute.
used to see it. Now currently it's blank.
No. 2 minutes back it is there. Now it is not there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we
Now
can
we
see.
can see. Prabhu.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So here is a wonderful pastime of the Lord. So how the Lord is the well-wisher of his devotees, he is the lover of his devotees. So many wonderful qualities of the Lord. So comes to manifest in this wonderful pastime of the Lord, where the Lord blesses the wives of the Brahmanas. So let's go through this pastime of the Lord. So I thank all the devotees assembled here. Kindly pray for me so that I can speak in tune with the purports of Srila Prabhupada and for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. So here in this wonderful pastime of the Lord, so there is a purpose behind why the Lord comes to the sacrificial arena where the devotees are performing, where the Vedic Brahmanas are performing the sacrifice. So we'll see the purpose. So in due course of time, in the course of our discussion. So here we see in this picture, the wives of the Brahmanas have brought offerings for the pleasure of the Lord. So next, so we see that the sacrificial arena was filled by this the Yagnik Brahmanas were performing a wonderful sacrifice for the pleasure of were performing a sacrifice. So, and what was the purpose behind that sacrifice has to be understood. So these Vedic Brahmanas were experts in the recitation of Vedic mantras. So they had followed the vows of celibacy. They had attended the Gurukula, served under a spiritual master. So initiated 3 times. So one initiated 3 times. One is they had initiated thrice, in the sense they had taken birth in the family of Brahmanas. So second one is they were initiated by the spiritual master, and they were third initiation is they were initiated into the performance of Vedic rituals. So they were experts. So they had extensive knowledge of the study of Vedic literature. So, and what was the result of such study is discussed here. So the Yagnik Brahmanas were experts in the performance of the Vedic sacrifices. So, and they were performing a sacrifice called as the Angirasa sacrifice. So what is the purpose of performing this Angirasa sacrifice is to promote themselves to the heavenly planets. So to enjoy heavenly pleasures. So in the Nandana Kanana gardens, so amongst in the midst of the damsels of the heaven. So this was the aim of performing this sacrifice. This sacrifice is called as the Angirasa sacrifice. So usually Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here that they were experts, but they were performing a sacrifice, so for the promotion of heavenly planets. So let's see what is the consequence of that. So here in the first verse of this chapter, we see that the boys were very hungry. The cowherd boys, Krishna and Balaram, had come a long way tending the cows. So, and there was a purpose behind why the Lord came there, and the boys were feeling very hungry, and so they were approaching in a friendly mood the Lord. My Lord, we are feeling very hungry. So you are famously known as the subduer of enemies. So you should also subdue our hunger. So on the plea made before the Lord was happy with his devotees and he wanted to subdue their hunger. The Lord told them, so here, a short distance from this place, you find the Brahmanas are performing a sacrifice. So you go and tell them that Krishna and Balaram have come, and you have, and so they are hungry and they want some food to eat. So initially the boys were hesitant. So, and the Lord encouraged them by saying that, so you may feel embarrassed because usually people who go to beg are often rejected. So you need not worry about that. So that's a part of the begging profession. So the Brahmanas usually take the profession of begging, and usually it is not surprising that somebody rejects them and refuses to offer something. So here the boys also had this apprehension, and Krishna and Balaram told them, you go and mention our names, that Lord Krishna and Balaram. So Achyuta and Rama have come. So, and you can beg the food on my behalf, in my name. So then the boys approached the Yagnik Brahmanas. They offered their obeisances to the respect to the Brahmanas. So with due respects, so they approached the Brahmanas and begged them for food. So they mentioned that Krishna and Balaram have come a long way, so tending the cows. They are hungry. So kindly offer them. They are hungry now. Please kindly offer them food. So the Brahmanas, they were so engrossed in the performance of this ritualistic sacrifice. They were so engrossed into the nitty-gritties of how the sacrifice should be performed. They didn't even heed to what the boys were saying. So then they were addressed by the Lord as they were addressed by the boys as, you are learned in the Vedic scriptures. So, and with much reverence, they again pleaded before them, but the Brahmanas neither said yes nor no. So as if nobody existed. So the boys, with much dejection, they came again to Krishna and Balaram and stated what was the state of affairs. So here the Lord, by his example, is showing the Lord wanted to show the ways of the people of this material world to the boys. So, and the ways and the nature of the devotees. So both. So here the Lord again encouraged them and told them, now you go and approach the wives of the Brahmanas. So this time the boys, Lord Krishna and Balaram encouraged them, told them, now you will not be rejected. This time you will not be rejected. So you go and approach the wives of the Brahmanas. Don't tell them that I'm hungry. So because the Lord had an apprehension that the wives of the Brahmanas, being devotees of the Lord, they will be very pained to hear that the Lord was hungry. So, but this time the boys go to the wives of the Brahmanas and they approach them and tell them that the Lord Krishna and Balaram have come a long way tending the cows. So now now they want something to eat. So as soon as the wives of the Brahmanas they heard about Krishna and Balaram, so they became very jubilant. So immediately whatever was prepared for the Vedic sacrifice, everything was arranged in big baskets. So all the four kinds of footsteps. Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasado Swadvana Triptan Haribhakta Sangan. So these four kinds of footsteps, the four kinds of footsteps are the one that can be chewed, one that can be drunk, that can be sucked, that can be licked. So Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasad, those are the four kind of footsteps which were prepared for the Vedic sacrifices. So they were all packed by the ways of the Brahmanas. So before that, so here Srila Prabhupada comments about these Brahmanas. So even when the Lord personally sent an appeal to the Vedic Brahmanas, so they refused to acknowledge the presence of the Lord. So they were so much engrossed in the performance of these Vedic rituals. So here, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that these Brahmanas were petty-minded because they were captured by petty desires like promotion to heavenly planets. So though presuming themselves to be very advanced in Vedic learning, so Prabhupada is saying they are actually inexperienced fools. So here the Lord, here Shukadeva Goswami is making this statement. They were actually inexperienced fools because so after elaborate study of Vedic literature, what is their understanding is that they want to be promoted to heavenly planets. So this is called as the childish mentality of the Brahmanas. So the Brahmana here, Srila Prabhupada is saying that so one who has material desires, so desire to enjoy sense gratification. Kamaisthaithair hitajnana prapadyanti anya devata tam niyama ashraya prakriti niyata swayaya. So when the knowledge is stolen by material desires, when your knowledge is stolen by material desires, so then you lose the intelligence to discriminate things as to what is important in life and what is not important in life. So here the same thing happened with the Yajnik Brahmanas also. So they were very vastly learned in the Vedic literature, but what is their understanding of such a vast learning is that so they're captivated by the desires to enjoy heavenly sense gratification. So being promoted to the heavenly planets. So even after the study of the Vedas, some may come to the conclusion. They may not be attracted to the Vedic conclusions. What is the Vedic conclusion? As the Lord mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattas pratignanam apohanam cha vedesya sarve rahameva vedyo vedantabit vedakrat eva chaham. So the Lord is saying that the Lord is seated in as Paramatma in everybody's heart, and He knows the wandering of all the living entities. Mattas pratignanam apohanam cha. So from the Supreme Lord comes the knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So what is the purpose of the Vedas is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So He is the purpose of the Vedas, He is the knower of the Vedas, He is the compiler of the Vedas. So therefore, if somebody does not, even though he claims himself to be a Brahmana, if he does not arrive at the conclusion of understanding the absolute truth, then his Vedic understanding is the study of the Vedic scriptures is useless. That will we see in the pastime which follows now. So, but in the course of the study of Vedas, people may be attracted to the flowery language of the Vedas, just like somebody may be attracted to the green leaves of a beautiful tree. So similarly, the Yajnik Brahmanas, without understanding that somebody should be attracted to the fruit is the fruit of Krishna Prema. So instead of getting attracted to the fruit, they were getting attracted to the leaves of the tree. So here, the Lord says that Yamimam Pushpitam Vacham Pravashadyava Paschitaha Vedavada Ratapatha Nanyat Kachitavadina. Vedavada Ratapartho. So Vedavada Ratapartho. So Kamatmanam Swargaparo Janma Karma Palapradam Kriya Vishesha Bahulam Bhogeshwaryam Gatim Prati. So men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, and which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So the Agnic Brahmanas, they say that being promotion to the heaven, getting promoted to the heavenly planets is the purpose and goal of life. So there is nothing beyond this. So somebody may be a Brahmana, but he may not arrive at the Vedic conclusions. He may not come to the conclusion of a Vaishnava. So they are called as the Karmakandis, so who are very much interested in the fruitive activities and be getting promoted to the heavenly planets. So developing, why Prabhupada is calling them unintelligent fools is that, so sometimes somebody may be attracted to the poisonous flowers of a tree. So they may be attracted to the flowers of a poisonous tree without knowing the results of such attraction. Unenlightened men are simply attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. So they do not understand that getting promoted to the heavenly planets, so and heavenly opulence for sense gratification are like poisonous fruits. So they defeat the purpose and the goal of this human form of life. So therefore, if the people don't understand the conclusion of the Vedic scriptures, so then it is just like getting attracted to the poisonous fruits. So which is like again getting promoted to the heavenly planets. Once your pious credits are exhausted, then again you come back to this material world and perform pious activities, getting promoted to heavenly planets. This is a kind of a cycle. So, but the laws of material nature are very, very stringent. So we have been undergoing this process of getting transported to the heavenly planets, again coming down. So again getting promoted to heavenly planets, again coming down, going to the lower species of life. So then again getting the human form of life. So without understanding the purpose and the goal of human form of life, wasting our valuable human form of life in this ferry wheel. It is called as the ferry wheel way, which sometimes comes up and sometimes goes down. Prabhupada says this. So the transmigration of the jiva from one planetary system to another planetary system, so getting transported from one body to another body is just like boarding a ferry wheel. So a giant wheel which is usually displayed in so many exhibitions where people take a jolly ride going up, coming down. So and people are just losing this valuable opportunity of this human form of life. So on the other hand, we see that the wives of the Agni Brahmanas, so they immediately, as soon as they got the message that Krishna and Balaram had come a long way and they were at a very short distance, they packed all the ingredients, whatever they had cooked for the Vedic sacrifices, put them in the baskets, made wonderful arrangements and carried it to Krishna and Balaram. So when they were trying to go out of the house, so they were stopped by the elderly members of the family, their husbands, their brothers, their relatives, so not to go. So, but the wives of the Agni Brahmanas, they had developed such transcendental love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that nothing could impede their advancement to reach Krishna. So nothing could stop them. So they rejected the plea of their family members and they proceeded to meet Krishna and Balaram. So when they went to meet Krishna and Balaram, so they saw that Krishna was very beautifully decorated. So it is mentioned that his complexion was dark blue and he had golden garments. So wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and garlands of forest flowers and leaves. He was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend and with the other filled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. So this is the description of how the Lord appeared. He had a bluish complexion, wearing a peacock feather on his head. he had colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and the garland of forest flowers. So this is the beautiful description of the Lord. So as soon as the wives of the Brahmanas saw the beautiful form of the Lord, so it is mentioned that through the aperture of their eyes, they drank the beauty of the Lord. They allowed the Lord to enter their heart, and there they embraced the Lord for a long time. So because they were feeling the pangs of separation from the Lord for a very, very long time. So it is said that just like the sages give up the anxiety of false ego and embrace their inner consciousness. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas, they embrace the Lord within their hearts for a very long time, and thus they could mitigate the pain of separation. So this is what happens to the devotee of the Lord who has developed this transcendental consciousness by the process of hearing. So how come the wives of the Brahmanas, they have developed such transcendental feelings of the Lord is very, very interesting here. So the wives of the Brahmanas, they were hearing the glories of the Lord from the women folk of Vrindavan, from the women folk of the Vraja. They were hearing the wonderful glories and pastimes of the Lord from the betel nut vendors, from the flower vendors. So, and they had developed these transcendental feelings for the Lord from the very beginning of their youth. So even when they were very young girls, so they had developed such wonderful feelings for the Lord because they heard the transcendental glories of the Lord from these fruit vendors, from the flower vendors, from the betel nut vendors, from the Vrajavasis who were narrating the pastimes of the Lord. All these Vrajavasis, who are they? They are wonderful devotees of the Lord. This thing has to be understood. So they were pure devotees of the Lord. And when they heard about the glories of the Lord from such pure devotees of the Lord, their transcendental feelings of the Lord had developed. And from the very beginning of their youth, they had developed such transcendental feelings towards the Lord. So, therefore, hearing from an appropriate source, therefore, hearing from a proper source is the means of developing such transcendental love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yasyam vai shuyamanaha Krishna Paramapurushe Bhaktir Utpadayate Pumsam Shokamoha Vayapaha. So Yasyam vai shuyamanaha, hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord, from the very beginning of their youth, they had developed such transcendental feelings for the Lord. So therefore, they had heard from the authoritative sources. So, and we have another instance in the history also. So where they had not seen the Lord, but they had developed the transcendental loving relationship with the Lord. When we hear the pastime of Rukmini Devi, so how she developed that attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead was she heard the glories of the Lord from the Brahmanas. So similarly, the process of hearing is such a transcendentally powerful process that hearing the pastimes of the Lord, one develops these transcendental feelings towards the Lord, and it enhances the devotional service to the Lord. Just like Prabhupada gives the example of how this happens. So just like an iron rod, when it is brought in the contact with fire, initially it develops heat. Then in due course of times, it becomes red hot and becomes golden hot. So it starts acting like fire. Similarly, so a devotee of the Lord, when he comes in the association of the Lord, so his devotional service gradually develops. And over a period of time, it matures, and when the devotee becomes pure, he acts like fire. He develops that transcendental feelings towards the Lord. Similarly, the same thing had happened with the wives of the Brahmanas. They had developed such transcendental feelings towards the Lord. So by the process of hearing. So this is what had attracted the Lord. Why the Lord did not come for the sake of the Yajnik Brahmanas. He had come for the sake of the wives of the Yajnik Brahmanas who had developed such love for them. So transgressing all the social etiquette, so they had come to meet the Lord. So they had lost all worldly hope. So when the Lord saw these wonderful aristocratic Brahmana ladies who had come to meet the Lord, so the Lord said, "My dear, the Lord addressed them in a very loving way. He said that you are very fortunate, so that you have come here. So please make yourselves comfortable by being seated." So, and you have come a long way. Please explain to me what is the reason for your coming here. So, then the Lord, who is the witness of, who is sitting as witness in everybody's heart, he knows the desire of this wives of the Brahmanas. So, and he knows that they had given up all worldly hope, they had rejected their relatives and come a long way to meet him. So the Lord greeted them with a smiling face and made them comfortably sit. And he was addressing them, "You are very fortunate. So you have come a long way to meet me. So please tell me, how can I help you?" So the Lord also tells them, anybody who is interested in his own self-interest, so he performs unalloyed and uninterrupted devotional service unto me. So the Lord also telling them that, so now now your husbands are waiting for you, so to complete the sacrifice. The best thing for you to do now is go back home and so complete the agni sacrifice along with your husbands. So when the wives of the Brahmanas, they heard this, they were very pained to hear this from the Lord. So they said, "My Lord, you cannot be so cruel to us. So you are killing us with your cruel words. So don't be so cruel to us. So you are known as the benevolent and the benefactor of your devotees, and you reciprocate with the feelings of your devotees in a loving manner. So therefore, you are supposed, it is your duty to reciprocate with us in a loving manner. So therefore, you cannot reject us like this. So we have abandoned our relatives, we have given up our family ties. So now we have come and surrendered to your lotus feet." So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad gives the internal conversation that happens between Lord Krishna and the wives of the Brahmanas. So the Lord tells the wives of the Brahmanas that see, you belong to the aristocratic Brahmana family, and I'm just a cowherd boy. So what good does it do to you, surrendering to a cowherd boy? So then the wives of the Brahmanas tell Krishna that we have already surrendered at your lotus feet. So what is the harm in accepting us? So through our conversation, you know that we don't acknowledge, we don't consider ourselves to belong to the aristocratic Brahmana community. So you know we don't have such feelings. So we have surrendered at your lotus feet. Now you have to accept us. So then the Lord says that, see, my rightful maid servants are the gopi girls, because I am a cowherd boy, and they also belong to the cowherd community. So it is appropriate for the maid servants, like the gopis, to surrender unto me. So, and you being the you being the girls who belong to the aristocratic Brahmana families, I cannot accept you as my maid servants. The social convention and the social etiquette does not allow this. So the wives of the Brahmanas, they feel dejected. So and they say that we know that we don't deserve to be your girlfriends, just like the gopis, so who have such an intimate relationship with you. We don't deserve that. That is okay, but still we want to stay in, we want to just stay in this forest. Now we have abandoned our relatives, we have taken shelter of your lotus feet. We don't want to leave your lotus feet now. So this is the state of sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshasami masuchaha. Here we see the mood of the wives of the Brahmanas. So they had given up all family ties, social conventions, sarvadharma. So even though a wife is supposed to follow the husband, so here for the sake of Krishna, they have rejected all social conventions and have surrendered to Krishna. Sarvadharman parityajya. They have rejected all different kinds of dharmas and have surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Even Vedas also recommend that anybody who has surrendered at the so it is said that anybody who has surrendered to the lotus, even the Vedas also mention that anybody who has taken the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, they need not follow they have no other obligation to follow any social convention. So this is what the wives of the Brahmanas are also doing by this wonderful example. They are illustrating this verse. So, but the Lord is saying that the social convention does not allow. So therefore, they say that even if the social convention does not allow, but still, because we have surrendered unto you, we will stay in this forest. So as the demigods of this forest, so we will accept the lotus feet. We will accept the tulasi, which falls at your lotus feet, which gets crushed when you embrace the gopis, and we will place this lotus leaves on our head. We will place this tulasi leaves on our head, and we want to make our life successful just by staying connected to you. Somehow or the other, we want to stay connected to you and maintain our connection with you and purify our existence. So the Lord finally tells the gopis, the Brahmanas, the wives of the Brahmanas, that it is not proper. So even in this life, you cannot have the bodily relationship with me, just like the gopis have. So, and it is not the way to cultivate your loving relationship with me. So just like you were meditating on me, thinking about my pastime, so thinking about my glorifying me, meditating on me, so by performing deity worship, so you can develop loving relationship towards me. Your intensity of love will enhance by performing all these activities. Now you kindly go back to your respective husbands. So go back to the Yagnik Brahmanas. So, and I will assure you that these Yagnik Brahmanas will not reject you. They will not refuse you. Even your family members will not reject you. You just go back. And whatever I am telling you will also be approved by the demigods. So here we see that the demigods also cannot refuse or reject whatever has been approved by the Lord. Whatever the Lord says is the law. So even though there are many injunctions of the scriptures, so they cannot override the injunction of the Lord when it is directly pronounced by the Lord. So this we see in the case of Mahabharata also. So Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted to be a very good moralist by not pronouncing a lie, but his chariot immediately touched the ground for not accepting the proposal made by the Lord to pronounce a lie for a higher cause. So even though the injunctions of the scriptures may be there, when there is a direct order given by Krishna, so one has to follow the direct order given by Krishna. That is the law. So dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. When something is directly pronounced by the Lord, that has to be followed. So that is the law of the land. So the wives of the Yagnik Brahmanas, so they go back home. So they are, and the wives and the relatives, the husbands, so they accept them. So they complete the Yagnik, the sacrifices. So after completing the Yagnik sacrifices, so the husbands of the wives of the husbands of the Brahmanis, so they also get an enlightenment by the mercy of the Lord. So how they get the enlightenment is not because of the Vedic study. It is because of their connection with their wives who were the devotees of the Lord. So this point has to be understood. So the wives of the Brahmanas, after they come back home, they develop transcendental feelings towards the Lord. So when a devotee has developed the symptoms of devotional service, so this is called as the Astavikara Bhav. So the ecstatic symptoms of devotion was exhibited by the wives of the Brahmanas. So they were their body was trembling. So their complexion had faded. So and their tears were flowing from their eyes, and so they were lovingly calling the names of the Lord. Oh my Lord, you are the pleasure of our life. So when the husbands of the wives of the Brahmanas, they saw these transcendental symptoms in their wives. So, and one of the wives of the Brahmanas who forcefully stopped from going to meet Krishna, when she heard the pastimes of Krishna, she completely embraced the Lord in the heart and gave up her body also. So when the Brahmanas saw all these wonderful symptoms being exhibited in the body of the wives of the bodies of their wives, so they completely came back to their senses and understood. So that how wonderful it is that these ladies, so who have not who have not studied the Vedas exhaustively, who have not followed the vows of celibacy, they have not learnt under a spiritual master, they have not undergone any purificatory processes. But still, by just hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord, meditating on his wonderful activities, how they have developed such transcendental symptoms, how they have developed such love. And because of that love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so they were very easily able to break the attachments of this material world. So, which we are not able to do. So, we are so much engrossed in material activities. We have so much affection for our families that we are not able to so give up our attachments. So, even up to the point of death, they were able to uh, sever their relationship and ties with this material world. They did not have any affection for the families. So, just because they had developed this love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so and they were condemning themselves that our exhaustive study of Vedas, our vows of celibacy, our exhaustive study of Vedas, our vows of celibacy, so and our expertise in the performing Vedic rituals, everything should be condemned because all this has not given us any result, which is the true result of developing attraction for the Lord. So, and in fact, our wives have developed such a wonderful attraction for the Lord. Here, through this example, the Lord wanted to expose the fallacy of the study of the ethnic Brahmanas, fallacy of the understanding of the Vedic Brahmanas. So, by the example of their own wives who had surrendered at his lotus feet and had developed great transcendental attraction for him and the renunciation they had developed for this material world. So, they had understood by the study of the scriptures also that the Lord would descend in the Yadu dynasty to kill Kamsa. So they had, through the study of the Vedas, they theoretically knew that the Lord would appear, but they could not surrender unto him. So because of their attraction for this material world. So, and after coming to their senses, the Agnik Brahmanas actually wanted to go to Vraja and surrender at the lotus feet of the Lord, but they were fearful of Kamsa's spice. So the spice of the Kamsas, they thought that the spice of the Kamsas would inform Kamsa that we went to meet Krishna and Balaram. So they were very much afraid of the spice of Kamsa. So, and this shows that they were not very mature in their understanding of Krishna consciousness. They were not so advanced as their wives. So after this incident, the wives of the Brahmanas were treated with great respect by the Brahmanas. So they were not treating them as their object of sense gratification, but they treated them as their own spiritual masters. So who had brought such an enlightenment in their lives. So this is the symptom of how a devotee develops such a transcendental attraction for the Lord by the process of hearing. So the Lord also wanted the wives of the Agni Brahmanas to continue doing the same thing. So hearing and meditating on his glories, which they were doing from their very youth. So this is the kind of attraction one develops for the Lord by the process of Shravana and Kirtana. So Shushusho Shaddadanasya, so the same results can be achieved by the devotees of the Lord also who follow in the Parampara. So just by surrendering to a pure devotee of the Lord. So how one can develop such transcendental feelings is by the process of serving a spiritual master who has such attraction for the loving devotional service. So just like it is said, the Shri Radhika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Leela Gudarupa Namna. So as we sing in the Guru Ashtakam, Kintu Prabhoryo Priye Vatasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So then we see that by serving such a spiritual master, we can engage in the loving devotional service of Radha and Krishna. So the same award, the same result can be achieved by the devotees of the Lord by serving a pure bona fide representative of the Lord. So in the Guru Parampara, so who is doing such wonderful activities for the pleasure of the Lord. So here we see in the whole Guru Astaka, the Lord is engaging his, the spiritual master is engaging his disciples in all these loving services. So from Shri Vigraha Radhana Nityanana Shungara Tanmandira Marchanadav. So Yuktasya Bhaktansa Ninjato, Shri Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam, Chaturveda Shri Vaduvat Prasada, Swadvana Triptan Haribhakta Sangha. So Nikunjayono Ratikeli Siddhir Yayali Bir Yuktir Apekshaniya Tatratri Darsha Ativallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. The whole 8 stanzas of the Guru Ashtaka prayers, you can see that how the spiritual master engages his disciples in this loving devotional service to Sri Radha Madhava. So by serving such spiritual master, Shushusho Shaddadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi, Sanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishivanat. So we will also develop such loving relationship, loving feelings as the wives of the Brahmanas had developed for the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the process of Shravana. So that's the reason Srila Prabhupada says that we are not sentimentalists. So this is a scientific movement. So therefore, the same result what was achieved. So as we see through the pages of the Bhagavatam, through the histories of these wonderful devotees of the Lord, the same transcendental feelings can also be developed and invoked in the hearts of the devotees who follow such transcendental path. So on the process of Jnana and Vairagya is not a dry process. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janatu Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayan Ahaitukam. So how the process of this attachment for the Lord and detachment from matter happens is by Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. So the same symptoms can be seen in the wives of the Brahmanas. So by developing attachment for Krishna, they had naturally detached from the material attachments. So which is very difficult, especially for the woman to give up. So that's what we see in the prayers of Kunti Maharani also. Because she has attachments on both sides. One's on the side of the husband and one on the side of the parents. So for women especially, it's very difficult. And how they could overcome this familial attachment by developing attraction for Krishna. Krishna is all attractive. So therefore, by following in the footsteps of such devotees, so and the Lord is also recommending that what is supposed to be done. They have to hear his name, they have to chant his names, they have to perform deity worship, so purify their existence. So they had already developed pure feelings for the Lord, and especially it is a lesson for all the devotees, for all of us to develop such attraction by following the process recommended in the scriptures, which of the 64 principles of devotional service, we have the 5 potent forms of devotional service: the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, so staying in a dham, so performing deity worship, and serving Vaishnavas. The same thing can be done. So the Lord, after the wives of the Brahmanas offered them food, so he distributed the food to all the Gopas, and their hunger was satisfied. So you see how the Lord deals with his devotees, and in how he reciprocates with his devotees in such a loving manner, and each according to his own bhava. So so what happens? There's a famous shloka, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. So how the Lord is the Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. So devotees who always think of him. So how the Lord becomes their well-wisher and caretaker. So it is mentioned that in the pages of Bhagavatam that the wives of the Brahmanas, when they were asked to leave with Krishna, they pleaded, they fell at his lotus feet, begged at his lotus feet, asking for one prayer, that let us develop an undeviated attachment to you. So, and let us not, and all the obstacles which come on the path of our devotional service be removed. So, and we develop this meditation and undeviated meditation upon your lotus feet. So let us not have any objective in life except you, my Lord. So let this prayer of ours be blessed by you. So similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas, by their own personal example, they are teaching us that we should not have any motivation when we approach the Lord, and we should also offer such prayers. So at the lotus feet of the Lord. when we approach the temple, when we are before the deities, we should also pray in a similar manner, that we develop such attachment for the Lord and not for anything material. So here the Lord is giving the example of both. So somebody may be attracted to a ritual and somebody may be attracted to the Lord. So here we have the classic example as to how one can develop loving attraction for the Lord by this wonderful pastime of the Agni Brahmanas and the wives of the Brahmanas. Hare Krishna. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Devotees have any questions? So any comments? So you can please share, add.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavatam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, as you are telling that since we are conditioned, we are not able to detach from our family life or something like that. Like in that case, I mean, how can we serve our family, Prabhu? Like as a parent, as a son, as a wife, or as a husband, in what mode to serve, or how can we take them from? That's a question, Prabhu.
So how can we serve the Lord? So in our state, we have to perform our prescribed duties. So because this is a case where the devotees have developed a very great devotion for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they had such an intimate relationship with the Lord that they could reject the familial attachment, and they could reject the familial attachment and get attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Sarvadharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. In our state, in our conditioned state, we are supposed to perform our prescribed duties. So, and the performance of the prescribed duties will also act as a means of our purification. So everybody is supposed to follow his prescribed duties. So as a matter of purification and duty towards the Supreme Lord, get purified and gradually proceed to the stage where we see a very exalted state of the wives of the Brahmanas, right? So it is not by it is not a state which can be artificially imitated, but can be done in a scientific process by adopting the process adopted by the wives of the Brahmanas. So in our conditioned state, in our present state, we are supposed to execute our family duties, at the same time practice Krishna consciousness. So help our family members also practice Krishna consciousness. So stay at home, practice Krishna consciousness and get purified. So, but these are all very great classic examples given in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam as to develop that mood in serving the Supreme Lord, which is ahaituki and apratihata. So which should be uncontaminated and unmotivated. So they are teaching us by their own personal example as to what we are supposed to pray to the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So any other comments, any other doubts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Anupama Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, here you mentioned this Brahmanas. So they are completely ritualistic, and they're not able to identify the Lord, Supreme Lord Himself.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, Prabhu, there are Vedavadaratis, two types of Brahmanas.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain those things, Prabhu?
So there are two types of Brahmanas. So a Brahmana is actually is the one who is known by his qualities. So somebody cannot claim to be a Brahmana just by the status of being born in that family. So one has to acquire the qualities of Brahmana to be called a Brahmana. So what somebody may develop these 9 qualities as mentioned in Vedas. Samadama tapasaucham shanti marjavam evacha jnana vijnana mastikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. So one can develop equanimity, tolerance, forbearance. So mind and control of the mind and senses. So all these wonderful qualities of a Brahmana can be developed, but he need not be a Vaishnava. A Brahmana need not be a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is by default a Brahmana. In the sense, a Vaishnava has all the wonderful qualities of a Brahmana, and also surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So whereas a Brahmana, a person is identified as a Brahmana by the qualities only. So, and this does not give a prerogative to become a Vaishnava. So somebody can become a Vaishnava by a mercy of a Vaishnava. So therefore, unless one gets the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord, there is no question of somebody becoming a Vaishnava devotee of the Lord. So this Vedavada Ratha, somebody may be an exhaustive, somebody may be very learned in the Vedic scriptures, he might have studied Vedas, but still he may be attracted to the flowery language of the Vedas. So he, like getting promoted to the heavenly planets. So, and meditating on the heavenly pleasures. So by getting promoted there. So if such is the case, they have failed to achieve the purpose and goal of life. As Prabhupada mentions that somebody may be attracted to the poisonous flowers, flowers of a poisonous tree. So without knowing the consequences of that. So similarly, when somebody gets attracted to such flowery languages and enjoys the heavenly pleasures there, so the opulence in the heavenly planets are so exhaustive that one cannot even think of the Lord. So even in this material world also, we see that people who are very opulent, they very hardly get a chance to associate with sadhus. So, Bhokteshwarya Prasaktanam Saya Bharata Setasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhihi Samodana Vidayate. For people who are bewildered by the material energy of the Lord, so for them to get attracted to the lotus feet of the Lord is very, very difficult. For them to approach sadhus is very, very difficult. So with an humble state of mind and attitude, so which is required to approach a sadhu, that may not be possible for a person who is puffed up by material opulence. So especially the pride which comes by one's own material opulence is very, very dangerous for somebody to take to the path of devotional service. So therefore, getting attracted to such poisonous flowers, the flowers of such poisonous trees, is the example given by Srila Prabhupada. If somebody gets attracted to the flowery language of the Vedas, which mentions about promotion to heavenly planets, so many attractive things are there. But with the help of a bona fide spiritual master who has surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, one will be in a position to discriminate as to what we are supposed to accept and what we are supposed to reject. So even though everything is mentioned in the Vedas, so unless you have a bona fide spiritual master, serve him sincerely, so we cannot develop such desires. So how one develops such desires is by serving a bona fide spiritual master. So who can award us the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So therefore, so the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master is very, very essential to discriminate as to what is fruitful, what is beneficial, what is poisonous. Everything has to be understood. Sanupama Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, and sorry, Prabhu. And one more thing, Prabhu. So, Vedavada Ratis and another you told previously, another kind of.
So Vedavada Ratis and one who are see one is the devotee class of Brahmanas. One is the Yagnik Brahmanas who are attached to the rituals, and there are also another class of men who are attracted to the moksha kamis. They are called the moksha kamis, who fall under the category of the jnanis and the yogis. So that we have discussed it many times. Okay. So the three class of Brahmanas.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So I think we can conclude the Bhagavatam session for the day. So thank you all very much for giving me this opportunity to discuss on Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.